Okay, hi everyone. How is everyone doing? Good? Okay, maybe I'll just start off with an introduction. My name is Srishti Mishra, and I am All India Rank 95, CSC 2023. I'm an IPS officer, and my training will take place this December. And I'm here for mentorship for a bit. And today's class is about English language, the English language compulsory paper. So we're going to talk about how to do that. And I'll start off by saying that just remember that UPSC is a lot about time management. So as much as this paper is obviously a qualifying paper and an important one, you have to also ensure that you're not using or spending too much time on this because there are obviously many other places where you want to spend time on, and you have to use your time wisely. Okay, that's a given. That should be understood. I wanted to say, I usually in such sessions, I say I can speak in Hindi also, but most people here would probably speak in Kannada. But that I won't be able to speak, I'm sorry. But okay, so I'll just continue in English. Now, let me talk about the structure of this paper. The first part, okay, so the first part we can see, so the full paper is 300 marks, correct? Now, the first part itself is 100. Now, can someone tell me how much time we should be spending on this part of the paper? If we have 3 hours and it's 300 marks, 1 hour, correct. Sometimes we overlook these things, but we need to understand that if something is given more marks, then that's accordingly, we need to spend that much time on it. So, how I would attempt the paper and how I would recommend all of you do too is by spending the first hour of the exam on this part specifically. And I would also say that this is something you can practice for a little bit. And basically, because it's just writing an essay, and you anyway have to write an essay in the GS exams. The first paper is an essay paper. So you should already know what an essay involves, what it means, and you've already practiced it at a much higher level than what's required in this paper. So this is, these are easy marks, I would say. This is somewhere where obviously you won't get full marks because there's no such thing as that in language and comprehension, but this is some place where you can easily use the skills that you have and work on that and write a good essay. So that's what I wanted to start off with. The first part of the exam should be spent 1 hour on this part of the paper. Now, how should we go about writing that essay? This is not very philosophical, okay? It's not asking you to do some crazy philosophy. It's not asking you for some, out of the world sort of a thing. It's just the basic purpose of this paper is to give you an idea, to give the examiner an idea that this person knows, understands, comprehends English, and they can convey a message that they have in English. Because in our country, we need English as a language, correct? So in this part, so let's just look at section, the first option. Paper books are more attractive than their electronic formats. Does anyone want to talk about, what would you write about in this essay? Or is this an essay you would choose? Anyone who wants to? I want this to be an interactive session. Far away? Okay. So does anyone have something to say over here? Anything? What would you write in this section? Paper books are more attractive than their electronic formats. See, really easy. It's like whatever the question is asking, sida. You have to give a straightforward answer to that. So the idea is that you, and then see, always understand the crux also. So obviously talk about the history, like you said, talk about how we have transitioned over time. But it says paper books are more attractive. So that's what we have to focus on. Like you said, the attachment that we have to a physical book as opposed to the electronic format, things like that you'll talk about. Ideally, I think none of us would choose this option. I think we can all agree that it's a very funny one. It's unconventional and not something we would necessarily be talking about. So then let's go to B, ethics in sports. We can always come up with examples of sports persons, how they act, what sportsmanship is. Right? And anyone who's interested in cricket at the least, in our country, you will come up with many actual examples of sports people showing sportsmanship, showing ethical behavior in that place. So again, this is a really easy one. And then see, another thing I'll mention, and something you should also incorporate in your actual essay in GS, is every time a topic is given, it's easy to come up with points that directly address that topic. Ethics in sports, what is it? But then you should always also look for other aspects of that topic. For instance, what does ethics in sports imply, not just for the sports people, but also maybe for the nation, maybe for sports as an organization, the organizations that are involved. Now let's think of another aspect of this. What does unethical behavior lead to in sports? What does it imply for the organizations, again, for the nation, for sports in itself? So, and then you should always also come up with some counter arguments. Is there a situation in which ethics should not even be considered in sports? Are there situations like that? The more you bring out these different perspectives, the better your essay gets. And I mean this, again, not just for this English comprehension, you actually don't even need to do that. But in your actual essay, the more you bring about philosophical perspectives, the more you bring about some different arguments, counter arguments, the better your essay gets. That's another one. Now C, war as a policy instrument for nations today, and then D, there is no place like home. I think D would be the easiest, and somewhere you can talk about your feelings as well. But I would recommend not going into I, not always, even in your essay, it's a formal exam. It demands a formal answer. And so you want to be as formal as you can, and using I and you, first and second person, in your answers is something you should avoid. So just as a tip out there. So okay, we get the point about the first question in this exam, and it's the place where we have to spend the most time on. All right, 1 hour, aram se, you should be spending on this part. Sometimes we get a little, we hurry a little bit. Are, matlab, pehle hi question nahi hua abhi tak, but it's 100 marks, right? So you should be spending 1 hour. Now, another, something I want to talk about, a mistake that we often tend to make is that we usually go to the end, usually when we're thinking about comprehension. Okay, this is taking forever. So we usually go to these sections and we think, "Are, ye nahi aata," and so we're going to fail the exam. I will reveal this to you. इसमें से थोड़े बहुत हैं जो मुझे भी नहीं आते. Even I don't know. I don't even know some of these. Passive, active voice, मैं भूल जाती हूँ. I forget. This is not something we revise on a daily basis. It's not something we necessarily remember. And remember, it's how many marks? A total of maybe, that many. So it's 1 mark per 1 question. So as much as we think this is what English comprehension involves, it is not. This is actually a part of the paper which you should be spending maybe the last 30 minutes on. And will be like quickly. You shouldn't be spending too much time and too much effort. And then even in these words, again, it's 5 marks again. So it's 1 mark for each of these. So you really need to understand how the marks are divided throughout the paper. And according to that, you should understand how much time and effort you should be spending in those places. Many people end up buying books, on English grammar and all these things. That is really not required. If you understood how this exam works, if you understood how the marks are dedicated and how they're split up, you understand that some of these things you can cover through YouTube. Active, passive voice, if you want to understand, you can always look them up on YouTube and you can figure out what needs to be done. Okay, now let's go back to this. That's why I want to spend as little time as I can over here because it's really not required. And more time on this. Now, easy marks you can get in, I think it was the second question, where there's a passage and you have to answer the questions. Read carefully the passage and answer the questions in clear, correct, and concise language. What I've noticed after doing many past year questions to practice these is that usually the answers are given very straightforwardly. If any of you have done these question papers, this is, by the way, 2024, that question paper, which I'm going through. And if you look back to any of the question papers, you'll see that the questions are very straightforward and you're going to find the answers written very clearly. So once again, now this is 75 marks. So you should be spending around 45 minutes on this as well. Okay, so it's really easy. You read through the whole thing. In fact, what I used to do, something you can also do as a tip, is I would read the questions first, so that I would know what to look out for. This is something I also did in CSAT, reading comprehension. Read the question first, and then accordingly, you can then, when you're reading the passage, you can look for the things you need to answer, right? You will find the questions. So for instance, the first question is, enumerate the agenda of the British rule in India. I can guarantee you that it's going to be, it was based on conquest, consolidated after several wars, followed economic policies designed to serve British interests. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but the idea is it's going to be there and it's going to be very obvious. Sometimes it's going to use the exact same sentence to answer that question. So, so this is, again, really easy marks, this one over here, and something that you should ideally be spending a lot of time on. Each question is, I think, 12 marks each. So if you get this right, if you write concisely, again, also follow the instructions. It says follow in clear, correct, and concise language. So you don't want to be overdoing it by writing the whole paragraph down. Another tip is also read all the questions at the same time. Sometimes what we end up doing is, in order to answer the first question, we also end up adding stuff that actually answers the second question. Okay, so when we write, when we say that, enumerate the agenda of the British rule in India, we should be answering just this question and not comment on the role of the British in spreading the idea of modern civilization. I hope you understand what I mean, okay? So like sometimes this question, the answer to this would also answer this, but because it says concise language, concise means making it precise, exact, in saying the most in the least amount of words. So you don't want to end up writing too much to answer the first question. So these are a few tips, really easy, like really straightforward. There's nothing really left to understand in this. It's really basic. And again, see, I would suggest you simply go through some past year papers. And now that I've given you a nice outline of what it involves and what the question paper is like and all these things, you can easily now go home, pick up 2023, that paper, and just attempt it, and follow the guidelines, follow the 3-hour time limit that you need to spend on this, and spend 1 hour on that, and then another 45 minutes on this. And then comes the next one. This was something I was really good at. And it's a little difficult, but it's also something that you can easily develop over time with practice. So this is called Precis writing. Precis comes from the French word précis, which means precise, obviously. So the idea is condensing some text from a larger amount or a larger length to, in this case, 1/3 of its size. So it says, yeah, in about 1/3 of its length. So the first thing I would do is go down and see how many words it was, 697, all right? Which is approximately 700. Now then I would divide that by 3, exactly. I would do the math, I would divide that by 3, and I would write that at the top of my page in pencil. And I would ensure then I would proceed to ensure that I was following that word limit. All right, so whatever I write has to be covered in that many words. And then another thing I would do was, when I read the passage, I would see what proportion, like what the proportions are basically. If say the passage is divided into 2 sections, this is 50%, this is 50%, then I know that even in my Precis, when I condense it, the first part should occupy only 50% of the words that I have demarcated for myself as the 1/3. That makes sense? So say this was a passage of 900 words, let's make it easier, and we have to therefore write it in 300 words, right? So if I can see that in this 900, 450, which means half of the words were about a certain topic, then in my Precis, in the 300 words that I have to write, 150 words will be for that part. And as soon as I reach that 150 word limit, I will move on to the next section. Is that understood? Am I making sense? Yeah? Okay, so that's the idea. And then what you do in Precis writing is you never copy whatever's written in the passage into your Precis. That's not the idea. What you have to do is change the words, bring it into your own words, and then put it all together, and then make it a smaller version of whatever is given without the extra details. Now, what that means is sometimes there are examples. There are okay, so what has come out of these? Pesticides, detergents, Plastics, solvents, fuels, paints, dyes. Do you see how these are all examples? Okay, so in your Precis, which is supposed to be precise, you will not mention these examples. Instead, you'll get to the point and you'll skip all the examples and you're gonna write whatever the crux of the entire passage is in a given amount of words. Okay, understood? And see, this is not something I can stand here and dictate and explain to you how it needs to be done. This is something that comes with practice. And this is something, at the beginning, I wasn't that good at it, but then I realized, okay, this is how you do it. This is the method of doing it, like I explained. Finding 1/3 of whatever the number of words are and all those things. And then eventually with practice, I figured out how to reword certain texts in my own words and convey the same meaning. So this is yet another place where, again, 75 marks. So another place where you can gain some really, really good marks. So again, this is why I see the purpose of focusing on these is so that you focus on preparing these sections. Oftentimes, even in the Hindi paper, even in the Kannada compulsory language papers that you guys might be doing, we tend to focus a lot on grammar. We tend to focus on, getting the sentence structure right, antonyms, synonyms, wo padhne lag jate hain. That's a waste of time, okay? That much Kannada and that much Hindi and that much English, we all know, to be able to give a certain number of, obviously that doesn't mean you don't practice them. At the end, there are some idioms. So knowing some idioms is also a good thing. So obviously practice them, but spend more time on these sections, is what I'm saying. Now what comes after this? Okay, then it's just rewriting the sentences. And if you read the newspaper on a daily basis, you will be able to rewrite sentences in a decent way. It's not going to be difficult. It's really easy. Little learning is dangerous thing. Tell me someone. Kya galat hai isme? Here, let me zoom a little bit. Little learning is dangerous thing. It's easy, come on. Little learning is a dangerous thing. No, in this case, see, unnecessary changes nahi banana hai. Little learning is a dangerous thing. Okay? A is missing. You are requested to kindly grant me leave. Okay, or you are kindly requested to grant me a leave. Okay? Could you please advise me what I should do? What to do? Oh, exactly. So, in this case, it would be, could you please advise me as to what I should do? So, advised is wrong because it's in the past tense, and as to what I should do. Okay? I envied his success. I envied his success. Or I envied him his success, but that's debatable. But I envied his success. If people feel good of coming to work, they will work better. If people feel good of coming to work, of should be? What should it be? But what should it be then instead of? It should be about. Okay? If people feel good about coming to work, they will work better. Okay? How terribly sad. This one, even I don't know the answer to this one. Can someone tell me? I don't know what's wrong about that. How terribly sad. Oh, instead of the question mark, it should be an exclamation mark. Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought, okay, so yeah, I guess, yeah. Spanish is more widely used outside of Europe. Add a question tag. A question tag is something that comes at the end, a question. Isn't it? Correct. He played the piano one night in the village hall. He played the piano at night in the village hall. I don't know what's wrong with that one again. See, these are very, subjective. You never know if you're doing the right thing, honestly. So that's why I'm saying these are easy also. So don't spend too much time. There's going to be some confusing ones anyway. Many men has succumbed to this temptation. Have. Yep. If she gets the right grades, she'd go to university. She'd is wrong. She would. Ka chota version, smaller version is she'd. But that is wrong because they're talking about the future. If she gets the right grades, she will go to university. And the smaller version of saying that is, she'll go to university. Okay? Don't walk the grass. On the grass. On the grass. I lived in Uttarakhand. He stood tall, dash all his friends in the college. Among. The cat jumped over or into the well to escape from the dog. She walked, dash the forest to reach her village. She walked? Past you can say, or through. Through the forest. Now, use the correct form of the verb given in brackets. 2 plus 2 makes 4. We need rain, the garden being so dry. We need rain because the garden is dry. So, in other words, we say, we need rain, the garden being so dry. Okay, she, blessed, passive voice. Now, honestly speaking, I don't even know what that is. Okay, like I forgot. She is blessed or she has been blessed, something along those lines. Easy way to solve this is go to YouTube, ask YouTube what is the difference between active and passive, do some examples and you'll know, okay? I just bear even talking to him. You know what bear means? Jhelna. It's like bearing. So I just can't bear even talking to him, something like that. And then can you just shut up for a minute? Could you? Yeah. Can is also fine, I guess. Antonyms of the following. What does antonym mean? Opposite. So optimist. Gal. You know what gal means? It's bravery, I believe. It's to have the gal to do something. Himmat. So the opposite of that would be? Something like that, yeah. Cowardly or a lack of courage. A word that is another word for lack of courage. Can't think of one right now. Zest is another word for zeal, I believe. I could be wrong. Profit. Quick. 3 points mil gaye? 2 nahi mile. It's fine. Move on. Rewrite the following sentences as directed without changing the meaning. The mangoes are too cheap to be good. I have no idea, so I need someone to answer this for me. The mangoes are too good. But 2 hai na, fir bhi. So the mangoes are too cheap to be good and we have to remove 2 so that the meaning remains the same. Too cheap to be good. The mangoes are not good because they are cheap. Something like that. I don't know. This is weird. See, our UPSC kabhi answer dega bhi nahi, so we're never going to know what's right. Take it. The French surrendered Quebec to the English in 1759. Change the voice. Okay. Mumbai is richer than most other cities in India. Use superlative degree. This I know. Richest. Thank you. What though we happen to be late? That is not even a sentence. What though we happen to be late? Can someone tell me, is this even a sentence? Is this a correct sentence? What though we happen to be late? And a question mark. I've never heard such a sentence. We are late, something like that. So what? Pata nahi. See, nahi pata. You're not going to know and it's fine. And these are 1-1 marks and it's okay. You can't be spending time and your brain and your effort on something like this. Same goes, by the way, this is a good lesson for everyone and for this exam especially. Same goes for prelims. Hum har saal ro sakte hain. We can cry. You know, that we don't know, koi question miss ho gaya, what a stupid question that was and all those things. And then UPSC is also going to give some random answer to those questions. You cannot crib about those things. That is life. Life is unfair. Even as an officer, you're going to face many, many, many challenges, which are going to seem outrageous and unfair. And you have to move on from that. Okay. So similarly, in such cases and in such instances, you do not, dimag nahi khapate hain usme. You do not spend more time thinking about that and thinking how unfairly you've been treated. Similarly, you do not spend time on questions like these where you don't even know that if it's a sentence or not. Okay. He betrayed his country and this was to his eternal disgrace. Changed to simple sentence. I spent 2 days in Cox's Bazar. It's one of the most attractive spots in Bangladesh, combined by using a phrase in opposition. What is that? Have we heard of phrase in opposition? I, in fact, haven't even seen it in any previous paper of UPSC. This is new. Okay. The soldiers arrived, the mob dispersed. Nominative absolute construction. Newton discovered that the force of gravitation made apples fall. Sequences of tenses. Ram said to Arjun, go away. Use indirect speech. This one I can do. Ram told Arjun to go away. Everyone should do his duty. Concord. Kya hota hai? So, I hope you understand, now that I'm standing here also, that despite not knowing these things, I was able to clear. It's a qualifying paper. You need to get 30%, 25% on these. So you don't need that many marks. So if you get some decent marks in the first few sections, you do not have to even worry about these. So I would say focus on the first part of this exam. Okay? We could always go to the next part. Speculate, inquisitive, forbearance, nocturnal, ineffectually, use this in a sentence. This is, again, these are really easy. And they're, again, 1 marks. The terrorists made it known that tourists would be targeted. This is, again, really easy marks. Because it's a choice between words, so it's not. And then use the following idioms. And that is it. I think this session was more than enough. And before the actual exam, or even now if you have time, maybe a day, go back, find a question paper, UPSC, on the website, download the PDF, sit down for 3 hours, attempt the paper comfortably, nicely, and be done with it. You know when this exam takes place? Mains May, the first 3 days are essay, GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. And then a week later, the first day, it's mains ka, Hindi and English, or whatever language yours is, and English, okay? And then the next day, it's the optional exams. So anyway, for a week, you're going to be busy doing optional studies. Optional is a really heavy and scoring subject. So you do not want to be spending too much time on this. I would suggest abhi se hi, like do maybe 2 or 3 papers, get comfortable in it so you know it's through. It's not something you have to worry about. Do a few papers, UPSC ke hi. Do not buy any books, do not run after any courses or anything. I'm sure they don't even offer something like that. And just just understand where you need to spend your time and where you need to spend your time also in terms of inside the exam hall. 1 hour on that first section. Learn to write some basic essays. If you're writing essays in the for GS, that's more than enough. Okay? Take it lightly, guys. Okay? UPSC, it's hard work. Sab log kar rahe hain. Clear itne se hote hain. And a lot of luck is involved. Please, it's coming from me. I'm saying this as a selected candidate. A lot of luck is involved, and you should never define your identity or your worth based on whether or not you cleared this exam, no matter how many attempts, no matter what. Given that, I will also say you should always have a plan B. You can take it from me, you can take it from other people. If you're listening to the leaders of our country at this point in time, if you know what this country is heading towards at this point in time, you should also understand that you are the future of our country. Youth are the future. So if you waste away the years, that is not something we want in a country like ours in order to progress. At the end of the day, we're doing this job because we love our country, right? We want to do something for our country. We want our country to progress, correct? So do not waste time, whether that's in preparation for this exam or that's in deciding what to do in the future. Even I had decided I would give 3 attempts maximum, and then I would move on to something else. I was doing my master's in economics so that I could move on to a different field in case UPSC was not meant for me. Luckily enough, and I say luck, hard work, sab karte hain. Luckily enough, I am through. I was through in my second attempt, so I didn't have to worry. But I had a plan B, just in case. So if there's anything we're taking from this classroom, if you were sleeping throughout this, I don't mind, but this is something I want everyone to take away. This is some advice I'm giving, some unsolicited advice, but something I want everyone to keep in mind. Okay? That's it. I wish you guys all the very best, and I'll see you around. Thank you.